This is a brilliant event, a fantastic opportunity for us to talk about what we have been doing. I'm going to cover topics that have been touched on already this morning, but touch on them in a way which is real. It's happening now. We have a considerable amount of experience in terms of the business that I come from, of Magnet Networks and more recently Velocity. And in terms of our experience and expertise, it has truly been in the area of, I suppose the phrase people use is the pioneers are the ones with the arrows and the backs. I'm a bean counter by trade, so don't hold that against me. I'm a member of the AA, the Accountants Anonymous. So when I do get too technical, please, sometimes people might have to stop me. But in general sense, what I have seen over the years is how this technology, how a disruptive platform, which is future, advanced, high-speed telecoms infrastructure can really change. And another phrase that Rohit might use would be the paradigm shift. We all use it. This is something that's really going on, and we see it, we're living it, we're experiencing it now. And so just a brief background. Many of you, I think, have heard me talk at previous events, but a quick little focus on who Velocity are. So a US-backed telecoms firm, headquartered in Ireland, but we are part of a larger international telecoms business with interests and reach in fiber infrastructure across the Atlantic, into London, across into Europe. So our reach is truly global. You'll see from some of the customers that we have in there that we're dealing with some of the largest telcos and largest ISPs in the world as part of our customer base. From an Irish context, we would have about 4,000 business customers, give or take. We have a consumer marketplace as well, but here specifically in the UK, I cannot take credit for establishing Velocity. Mr. James Saunders here in front of me has to take credit for envisioning what was required in the development of the smart city, the whole Wembley Park regeneration project, which is a huge urban regeneration initiative. And I come back to a point about, is fiber the only solution? Fiber in this instance is not the only solution. There are a mixed types of deployments here in terms of Wi-Fi, 4G, 3G, and VDSL, etc., deployed on this site. So I just wanted to clarify that point because it comes across sometimes that the only solution is fiber, and there are people in this room who are delivering satellite, delivering other technologies. But what we're primarily focused on is delivering the right solution for the right infrastructure, and we are primarily led by what the market wants and not by what we think the market wants. Jumping on, just a quick give you a snapshot and why it's relevant for those who are here from the council perspective, from Brent. You are at the hub and you are on the global infrastructure, you're on the global footprint. The network from here, our office is right behind this building. Any business located in this area is able to reach a global audience across our fiber. So when you think about a rockfall in Stockholm, sometimes we're dealing with rockfalls in the mid-Atlantic ridge. There are 4 ships on geostationary standby out in the Atlantic worried about plate tectonics, subsea volcanoes. So when somebody's worrying about their broadband wobbling at home, sometimes something's gone out in the Atlantic, and the one core principle of all of our networks should be underpinning it is resiliency. So everything we do is built on a resilient architecture, a ring topology, sometimes backed up by a wireless link. And that's one of the fundamental building blocks of what we provide. From a UK standpoint, we have cables. Our headquarters is sitting in from the Magnet business, is sitting in Dublin, but we can run customer support, sales, billing, etc., out of the Dublin operation. But there's a line missing from that. We also have an operations center in India. So we do have international expansion, international expertise. We've had an operations hub in India, in Pune, in India. A big university town, relevant because they're throwing out tremendously high qualified graduates who are innovative, who are bringing new ideas to what we do as a network development platform. And that is forming part of the broader family that we are part of. Coming to the specific issue at hand and bringing this to reality today is the Brent Regeneration Challenge. And I talk about the Regeneration Challenge that is all around us. Many will have looked years and years ago about Wembley, and it was typically if you come here for the car boot sale, for the Sunday car markets, etc. Now it's becoming a destination, and I want to steal James's thunder and the thunder of the Quintain team, but right next door, London Designer Outlet opens up next week. It's the only designer outlet within the M25, 140 odd stores, tremendous footfall, tremendous job creation. And so this is a fantastic opportunity that addresses this as an aspirational statement that was put forward by Brent Council, not by me, not by Velocity. So they see the key markers in here are about job creation, sustainability. All of the piece, which isn't about sticking fiber in the ground, but this is talking about the outcomes. What can you do with this technology? What impact is it having on one of the most deprived areas in the UK? And that's the challenge. What can we do? What is industry doing to drive regeneration, drive job growth, and drive social engagement as well as a particularly strong requirement of this plan? So distilling it down, a topic to be covered in the next few days, is a smart city. Most of you are familiar with the definition of a smart city. This is the standard Wikipedia. I did not invent it. But the focus area I want to talk about in the next few minutes is the ICT implications, because that's what we are here today talking about. Is our part in this whole regeneration story is the enabling ICT infrastructure and what types of services that is enabling today. So there's a little model at the bottom, by the way. It's very important. It's a triple helix model. Some of you may be familiar from the academic background, but this is one of the core parts of any smart city development. You cannot do this either just singularly as public sector or as industry or as academia. And one of the major projects we're involved with in the Irish context is a smart city, and it's called the GCCA. If you want to look it up online, the Global Clean Tech Cluster Association, 45 global cities who are participating in clean technology, which can be anything from energy efficient cement manufacture to smart buildings, data analytics. There is tremendous capital out there looking to invest in this type of area, in R&D, in business startups. And so it's part of the model that I can envision for the area of Brent, and particularly around this area of Wembley. The regeneration reality that you drove through or walked into today is probably a transformed environment of Wembley with approximately 85 acres all around here, which is on a development roadmap for the next, I think it's another 8 years, James, probably to go and continue that roadmap. 10 years, 12 years, he's going to keep pushing it up there. But you're talking about a site today which is ballpark 6 to 7 million footfall, which is now growing, and I think probably 24, 25, let's pick a number, probably and double it in terms of the amount of people trafficking across this site. With the shopping centres, with Wembley Arena, with the stadium, with the number of events taking place, there's a tremendous footfall across this entire site. And think about it as you're thinking about R&D and innovation, and from a futurist perspective, all these people doing different things. What can you use this effectively this exemplar network to do to test the trial? What lessons can you learn? What data analytics can you do? What does this mean about big data? And so I'm going to touch on some of these pieces shortly, but just in terms of the regeneration reality that we have enabled to date, it is a truly open access infrastructure. It's the one guiding principle that I have in our business in the Irish context and internationally, is we build the infrastructure. And as an accountant, it makes no sense for me to sit on my infrastructure and I'm the only one that can use it. The more people on my infrastructure, and not just talking about a telecoms layer, but other services across my network, over-the-top services, that's where it makes sense, and that's where it makes economic sense for me as a business, that I can look at business cases with 7 months payback in fibre. Most people in the room would disbelieve it, 22 months payback in fibre. Because we're not just thinking about a straightforward vertical layer of it's just fibre. We're thinking about other services that can be delivered across your network and how you can extract revenues off the back of that to sustain investment. And we are a profitable and cash generative business. We've invested 115 million to date. And 8 years on, we are generating profits and we're generating cash that we're reinvesting back into the business. And that's a critical thing. As people think about this, they might think about 7, 8 year paybacks. We're talking about a business that is breaking even, generating profits and generating cash to reinvest. So there are viable business models out there. In terms of a solution, very, very simply, the solution in broad terms is we run fibre, a true fibre solution to the building. We have a true IRS solution in many cases on top of the building. So what we're saying is our network is open. We run fibre all the way into the units. Some in the construction industry prefer a fibre to the basement solution, but our experience of 7 years, 8 years in the Irish marketplace, 2 years here, etc., is the types of solutions and services we're building for and addressing. We're trying to envision an environment in 5 and 10 years' time. And so what we are typically deploying is a fibre all the way to the premises solution. Or where that is not viable, we are also using wireless capabilities. And interestingly, as we've been building the infrastructure here, more recently we've been approached by a number of property owners in the commercial space looking to take a link. And typically that is a challenge in terms of running fibre. But of course what you can do across a fibre network is you can extend it. And one of the products is a 3 gig link over 4 to 5 kilometers that you can use. So there are other ways to extend this network, but what you're seeing in the cause and effect is you have built an exemplary piece of infrastructure here, linked the global web through our own assets across to the US, across to Europe and Asia Pac. That's allowing businesses in this environment to reach the global audience. One of those, if you're familiar with the brand Surfdome, we'll come on to that shortly. It started off as a 2-person business here in Wembley in an apartment, and now has a large warehouse here on the site, 2 floors office building behind us. Tremendous success story because they had access to infrastructure here. So coming back to the point, and I was touched on earlier on about telecare, why does somebody need fibre to the bedside? Well, actually the story here in terms of smart cities and what the telecoms infrastructure can do is enabling assisted living. And what does that mean for the council? Healthcare costs are tremendously high for councils, for public sector. I think generally it's held that if you can treat people in the home environment, it's far healthier, it's better recovery, there's lower costs in terms of on the taxpayer. In this scenario, there's a company called SensorMind. It's existing today. They deliver effectively a sensor solution to the home, 15 to 20 sensors deployed around the home, including fibre to the bed, which could be a sensor in the bed. And why is this relevant? What is it doing? It clearly has a transformative impact on society in terms of people who might need assisted living, or might be in the early stages of dementia or Alzheimer's, who can continue to live in a socially inclusive environment. And that's really what you have here from the Wembley perspective, is you have social affordable housing, you have student accommodation. And some of you who are on the tour later on will see this. You have high-end housing. But how do you continue to make sure that people are integrated in society for as long as they can? And so what this telecare solution does is it today allows people to live in an assisted environment. And we have one example, and this company, by the way, are talking to councils in the UK, but we have live examples in the Irish marketplace where the son or daughter, in this particular instance, they're living in Finland. The parent is early stage dementia. Rather than putting that parent in an expensive care home, the son in Finland is able to, or the daughter in Finland is able to monitor the parent remotely from Finland through a GUI. So they're in the cloud. But what does that mean then in terms of business development opportunities? Is, well, can you sell that data or use that data anonymously with pharmaceutical firms? Can you start to establish patterns? And this is where you start to link in out of your vertical as a telco. What are the collaborative approaches can you bring in? So now you have mass data about people who are, let's say, 75, who get out of bed at 8 o'clock every day and who may put the kettle on, because all the sensors do all this thing. And typically those folks get ill at a certain time of day. You start mashing all that data together, what does it mean for industry? What new products and services are going to come out? So this is a type of enabling regenerative infrastructure. So by putting the infrastructure in position, it allows for other services to come in and possibly new products and services to be delivered over the top. And that's over the top of your network. The other example, which is right next door and due to be switched on next week, is the public area Wi-Fi. And I call it it's fibre to the bedside. So we've got lots of FTTXs. There's fibre to the lamppost, fibre to the car park. I sat with the council as part of this whole smart city initiative and from a Dublin standpoint. And the council people said to me, we're looking at retrofitting the lighting with energy efficient lighting. We're going to put new power leads into the lampposts, and we're going to put LED efficient lights into the lampposts themselves. And I said, great. Why don't you run fibre optic to the lampposts and use it as a Wi-Fi mesh? Why would I do that? How would I make money from that? And what you have is, out of something different, the laws of unintended consequences. By running it, you now have citywide Wi-Fi. You now have very efficient lighting infrastructure. You now have the ability to backhaul 4G traffic and 5G traffic, and you're trying to envision where will industry be in 4 and 5 years' time. The Minority Report reference at the bottom, I think it is a bit of a reality that we're seeing, both in terms of, my son, he's 4.5, my eldest is 15, but the 4.5-year-old is a digital native with the mobile devices, and in terms of tablets. So we know that's there, but in terms of watching consumers' behavior, their patterns, how they shop, who shops, the car park scenario. So envision this scenario of you drive up to the car park barrier. Like the McDonald's scenario, it scans your number plate. It goes back to the DVLA. It knows what type of car you drive. It knows your credit score. It knows you shopped here last week. It knows, because of the footfall monitoring around a shopping centre, it knows which shops you prefer to go into. So envision that in terms of both a marketing perspective, but also about the data you start to gather and how you capture that data. That then gives you challenges about where do you translate that data, where do you analyze that data, what does it say about consumer behavior of a certain profile or a certain age demographic who shop in a certain store. So the amount of data and analysis, and I say the law of unintended consequences by deploying this infrastructure is tremendous. The telemedicine is an interesting one for you, a real world scenario, again being enabled by next-gen technologies, fast wireless, fiber, VDSL, DDSL, carrier pigeon, all of the above. This is a pan-European project that we're involved in. Deutsche Telekom, Telefonica are engaged with us. It goes from Greece, Germany, Spain, Ireland, UK. Brunel University involved as well. Envision this. You are at your local GP. The GP has your records. You fall ill. The ambulance comes to your home or the ambulance comes to the GP practice. On the way to the hospital, your records are pulled from the GP's practice, your heartbeats and everything else are pulled from the monitor on your wrist, and by the time you get to the hospital, all of your data is already downloaded to the receiving emergency care staff. That is a trial happening today. So we're working with the Royal College of Surgeons, 20 GP practices, and then we're working, and this is replicated across Europe. So it's a live project now, and this is the type of difference you can bring to the table. And as councils think about, as health authorities think about how to integrate all of these assisted living and telecare, this is reality. And just a little example of part of the aspiration of Brent Council's Regeneration was looking at events that community could get involved in. And an example would be the NFL game. So the NFL game happened a few weeks back. There's another NFL game here in 27th. And so what we're providing as part of our services is, yes, we can put fiber in the ground. Yes, we can put Wi-Fi. But how do you enable these events to take place around the area here? So in the acres outside this building, the hotel, is you can bring in job creation, innovation. You have an NFL expo. You have merchandising opportunities that effectively are a pop-up NFL store, the tailgate party. So when you're thinking about infrastructure and what you can do, you need to think about the enabling job creation, the types of unintended consequences, the events you can do, telecare, telemedicine. These are examples of things that are happening today. And I mentioned earlier on the Surf Dome. Surf Dome started in an apartment and is now one of the, I think it was voted in 2012 as Europe's e-tailer of the year. So going from nothing where they had in a room with a few boxes, and because they have access to high-speed connectivity, in this case they have access to fiber connectivity because they're here, they are able to ship around the world. And I'd advise you, when you get a chance, not on the next gen, probably Wi-Fi because it'll crash it, but is probably go out and have a look at Surf Dome because they're based out here as well. And they're one of a number of startup businesses that are emerging out of this location. And then finally, just to come back in terms of opportunities and wrap up on this point is, I just don't envision putting fiber in the ground to connectivity. I think about what the opportunity is in front of an area like Wembley or Brent Council. And it is that point of having a vision about being somewhere, not just about putting fiber in the ground and saying, we'll run fiber to the basement or run fiber to a unit or do Wi-Fi. What is your vision as a telecoms firm? What is your vision of engaging with that triple helix with the community, with academia, with the public sector? In our world, what we do as an example of that engagement and an exemplar engagement, we bring in a Nobel Prize winner every year to schools in Ireland. Last year, Mario Molina, the guy who discovered the hole in the ozone layer, we brought him to deliver a science class in a local school. Now, you imagine a science class. It was a girls' school, and I'm a huge fan. It was my mother's old girls' school in a fairly underprivileged area. Brought this chap in to deliver a science class to 5th and 6th year girls, senior cycle people who are leaving school, to inspire them. So I'm a huge fan of that whole principle of, if you want to teach somebody to sail, don't teach them carpentry, or build a boat, should we say, if you want to teach them to build a boat. Take them sailing, they appreciate the joys of it, and then they'll then want to learn. And this year we have the Nobel Prize winner in physics coming back again for photonics, lasers. But we make those lectures relevant to school kids. And we broadcast them over our over-the-top TV platform, so we can reach with our OTT platform around the world. So we had kids in a university hall, we had kids with Skype video behind us on the big screens here, engaging with the Nobel Prize winner, as well as taking that Nobel Prize winner to the schools. Why? Because those 5th and 6th year senior cycle students hopefully might become an employee or an innovator of mine in some future point in time. And this idea of the GCCA is something which is relevant to somewhere like Wembley or anywhere in the UK. It's having an idea and grabbing onto it and running with it. And I'll skip on just in terms of one of the final ideas. I think big. There's always that idea about the vision for the Brent Innovation Generator. I think of ideas as you look around this area, the population of Brent is the same as Ireland. That's one way to look at it, right? It's the same principle. Yet look at all the Facebooks and the Googles and the LinkedIn and Twitters who are establishing the headquarters in the Irish context. Yes, there are tax reasons, but one of the challenges they face is the attractiveness and the availability of talent. We're only a small country, so they struggle to hire people. There are thousands of job vacancies right now. You may have heard the negative in the press about Ireland. Ireland is turning a corner very definitely, and we feel it. There are thousands of vacancies. And why can't an area like Brent, with access to talent, access to global infrastructure, say, I want to be part of that. I want to be part of the clean tech cluster. I want some of that Facebook traffic. If a Surf Dome can do it, and someone like Quintain can build the infrastructure, we partner with them, and the council get engaged in it, then there is no reason why you cannot have a real innovation hub. And so when I think about Brent and Wembley as the innovation generator, innovate ideas, create, and that's all part of the long-term strategy about how we see ourselves as part of this relationship moving forward. And with that, there's a nice little photo. That's a nighttime shot of how it will all look, and I will call it a day.
Perfect. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.